The great hall of the galactic palace was filled with light, the walls glowing with strange energy that came from the stars themselves. Aliens of every shape and size stood in silence as the queen entered, her golden crown shining brighter than the suns of 3 systems. She was feared, she was admired, and she was the ruler of millions of worlds. Before her stood a single human man, small compared to the armored guards and the tall alien nobles. He looked simple, almost ordinary, yet his eyes carried no fear. The queen raised her hand, and the hall became quiet. Her voice was like thunder. "Wrapped in silk, human, you have been brought before me for a reason," she said. "You have caught my interest. And I will grant you 3 wishes. Any wish, no matter how impossible, I will make it real." The crowd gasped. Aliens whispered to each other. For thousands of years, no outsider had been offered such a gift. Some expected the man to fall to his knees and beg for riches. Others thought he would ask for power, fleets, or immortality. But the man stood calmly. He bowed his head once, showing respect, and then he looked directly at the queen. His voice was steady, and every word carried across the great hall. "My first wish," he said, "is something no one here expects." The queen narrowed her eyes. Her fingers tapped the armrest of her throne. She had seen greed, ambition, hunger for war, and selfishness. She had seen men and women, aliens and monsters, all demand the same things. But this human's tone was different, quiet, but full of weight. "Speak it," the queen commanded. Her voice echoing, the man took a slow breath. Every alien leaned forward. The guards shifted. Even the stars outside the crystal ceiling seemed to pause. "I wish," he said, "for truth." The hall froze. The words seemed too small, too soft, yet they shook everyone's heart. The queen tilted her head, confused. "Truth," she repeated, as if she had not heard right. "Yes," the man said, "I wish for truth. The kind no one can hide, the kind no crown, no army, no empire can cover. I wish to see the truth behind every mask, every lie, every secret." The court erupted into chaos. Nobles shouted in fear. Advisors gasped. Some laughed, thinking it foolish. Others trembled, knowing what it meant. The queen raised her hand again, and silence fell. Her eyes burned with fire as she looked down at the human. "Do you know what you ask?" she said. "Do you know the danger of such a wish?" The man nodded. "Yes, I know," he answered. "But it is the only wish I want. And it is the only wish I need." For the first time in centuries, the queen felt something strange inside her chest. A mix of anger, curiosity, and something close to fear. No one had ever asked for this. No one had ever dared. She leaned forward, her voice low, dangerous. "If I grant this, your life will never be the same. Every lie will burn before your eyes. Every hidden thing will rise. You may hate what you see. You may even hate yourself." The man did not look away. His voice was calm. "Then let me hate. Let me suffer. Let me carry it. But give me truth." The queen sat back, her golden eyes locked on him. Her court was still whispering in terror for the first time in countless years. She did not know what to do. The human's first wish had shaken the galaxy's greatest throne. And in her heart, the queen realized something she would never admit. She was afraid. The great hall did not return to calm after the human's words. The queen's nobles and soldiers looked at one another with wide eyes. Some whispered that the man was a fool. Others whispered that he was dangerous. No one had expected such a request. The queen sat high on her throne. Her golden crown caught the light of the stars above. Her face showed no smile, no anger, only deep thought. She had ruled empires for centuries. She had crushed rebellions, destroyed enemies, and gifted worlds to her allies. Yet never in all her reign had someone asked her for truth. "Human," she said slowly, her voice heavy like the weight of a planet. Why do you ask for such a thing? You could have asked for wealth beyond measure. You could have asked for ships, for armies, for endless life, yet you throw away your first wish on something that brings only pain. The man stood in the center of the hall. His clothes were plain, his eyes steady. He did not tremble. He did not bow. He only lifted his head and spoke clearly. All things are built on lies, he said. Nations rise and fall on lies. Families break on lies. Wars begin and end with lies. If I must walk among aliens, queens, and kings, I want to walk with eyes open. I want truth, nothing more. The court erupted again. A lizard-like noble hissed that this was madness. A tall alien with silver skin laughed cruelly, saying humans were too weak to bear such knowledge, but others did not laugh. Some stared at the man as if he were fire, dangerous yet impossible to ignore. The queen silenced them with a single wave of her jeweled hand. She studied the man, her golden eyes narrowing. She could sense his heart, steady and unshaken. This was not the greed of a desperate beggar, nor the ambition of a would-be conqueror. It was something else. You believe you are strong enough to carry the truth, she said, but the truth is a blade sharper than any weapon. It cuts the hand that holds it. It cuts the mind that sees. It has driven kings to madness, and it has broken empires into dust. The man did not step back. His voice remained calm. Then let it cut me. Better to bleed with truth than to live blind. For the first time, the queen leaned back in her throne. Her lips parted slightly. She was not only surprised, she was unsettled. This human spoke with no fear, and fear was the only language most beings understood. The hall grew colder, as if the stars above dimmed. The queen's voice lowered. More personal now. Do you know what you risk? Human, once I grant this wish, you will never again rest. Every secret will scream to you. Every mask will fall. You may find monsters where you thought there were friends. You may uncover horrors you wish had stayed hidden. And once you see them, you cannot close your eyes again. The man lifted his chin. His words were soft but strong. I accept that. My life is not meant to be easy. It is meant to be real. A silence spread like a shadow across the chamber. The nobles dared not speak. The guards stood frozen. Even the queen's advisors bent their heads, waiting for her decision. The queen's hand gripped the armrest of her throne. Her long nails scratched the metal. In her mind, questions battled each other. Why this human? Why now? What would the galaxy become if truth itself could not be hidden? She leaned forward, her golden crown shining like fire. So be it, she said. Your first wish is granted. From this moment forward, you shall see the truth in all things. May your courage match your request. Her voice rolled like thunder, and the walls of the hall trembled. The man closed his eyes as a strange light filled the air. It wrapped around him, burning and soft, heavy and endless. It sank into his skin, into his heart, into his soul. When he opened his eyes, they glowed faintly, not with power, but with clarity. He looked at the queen, and for the first time, he saw what no one else could see. Behind the crown, behind the perfect beauty, behind the golden eyes, there was something hidden, something broken, something she had buried for centuries. And the queen, though she said nothing, knew he had seen it. Asterisk. The human's eyes still glowed faintly after the queen granted his first wish. The hall remained silent. No noble dared to speak, and even the guards looked uneasy. For the first time in centuries, someone had asked the queen for something she did not expect, something she did not control. The queen leaned back on her throne. Her golden crown gleamed, but her thoughts were heavy. She studied the human with narrow eyes. Was this man foolish, or was he hiding something greater? No human had ever stood in her hall without trembling. No human had ever spoken with such calm. She waved her hand, and the court was dismissed. The nobles bowed quickly, whispering as they left. Only her closest guards and advisors remained. The human was taken to a chamber nearby, but the queen did not rest. She turned to her chief advisor, a tall alien with silver scales and cold eyes. "Watch him," she ordered, her voice low. "No human asks for truth unless he plans to use it. Find his history, find his family, find every secret he carries. I want to know who he is before he speaks his second wish." The advisor bowed, his voice a hiss. "As you command, my queen." That night, the human sat alone in a crystal chamber. The stars above glimmered through the transparent ceiling. He felt the strange weight of his new sight. Everywhere he looked, he saw things he had not seen before. The guards who stood by the doors pretended to be loyal, but behind their eyes he saw fear and resentment. He touched the wall and felt the hidden cracks under the perfect shine. For the first time, he realized the galaxy was not what it seemed. It was not a shining empire, but a kingdom built on hidden lies. Meanwhile, the queen walked alone through her private garden. Her steps were slow, her golden cloak dragging across the ground. In her heart, a storm brewed. She had seen ambitious kings, greedy nobles, and cunning generals, but never had she seen a human with eyes so steady. What if this man's wish was not only for himself? What if it was for something greater, her? Mind whispered questions she did not want. What did he see when he looked at her? Did he see the crown? Or did he see what she buried deep inside? Did he see the truth of her own heart? She clenched her fists. The thought made her uneasy. The queen of the galaxy did not doubt herself. Yet tonight, she felt the cold touch of fear. The next morning, her advisor returned. He carried a data scroll filled with records. He bowed low and began to speak. "My queen, the human is not ordinary. He once served as a pilot on a forgotten colony. He refused power when it was offered. He saved lives but never took reward. His record is clean, too clean." Almost as if someone tried to erase him, the queen's eyes sharpened. "Erased," she repeated. Her suspicion grew darker. She felt like a shadow was moving behind this man, invisible but real. Was he a pawn of some hidden power? Or was he the power itself? She dismissed the advisor and stood at her window, looking out at the endless stars. "Human," she whispered. "What are you truly?" Back in his chamber, the human closed his eyes. He knew the queen was watching him. He knew she doubted him. Yet he did not fear her suspicion. The truth had already begun to unfold, and he was ready to face it. But the queen was not ready. Her suspicion grew sharper than any blade, and in her heart she decided one thing. Before granting his second wish, she would test him, and if he failed, she would destroy him. The next day, the human was brought once again into the great hall. The chamber glowed with starlight, and the queen sat on her golden throne. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with hidden fire. Her suspicion had only grown stronger, and she was ready to test him. The nobles had returned. Lining the walls, their whispers filled the air like restless insects. Everyone wanted to know what the queen would do with this strange human who had asked for truth. Some thought she would kill him. Others thought she would grant his second wish immediately. But no one guessed what came next. The queen lifted her jeweled hand, and silence fell. "Human," she said, her voice rolling like thunder. "You have spoken your first wish, and I granted it. But you must know that no wish is free. Every gift has a price, and every choice carries a weight heavier than steel." Her words echoed, and the man looked at her without fear. "I understand," he said simply. His voice was steady. The queen's lips curved slightly, not in kindness, but in something close. "To challenge, do you?" she asked. "You wished for truth." and truth is the most dangerous of all things. It will cut into your soul. It will shatter the illusions that protect your mind. You will see what others cannot bear to see, and once you see it, you cannot turn away. That is the price. The man bowed his head once. Then I will pay it, he answered. The hall stirred with gasps. The nobles shook their heads. The advisors whispered warnings. The queen raised her hand again to silence them. Her golden eyes stayed fixed on him. You speak boldly, she said, but bold words are not enough. If you truly desire to carry truth, then you must prove. Your spirit can bear the weight before I grant you a second wish. You will face the trial of stars at her command. The guards struck their staffs against the floor. The crystal beneath them lit up, and a hidden doorway opened at the far end of the chamber. A deep glow came from the opening, like fire waiting to consume. The human turned his head toward it. He felt no fear, only curiosity. The queen rose from her throne, her cloak trailing. Like a river of gold, she stepped down closer to him, her voice sharp in the trial of stars. You will walk alone. You will see illusions. Monsters and shadows. Some will be lies, some will be truths. If you cannot tell the difference, you will be lost. If you hesitate, you will fall. Only if you endure will you return, and only then will I hear your second wish. The man met her gaze. Then I will endure, he said. His voice carried not arrogance, but certainty. The queen studied him for a long moment. Inside her heart, suspicion still burned. Why was this man so calm? Why was he not afraid? Did he already know? Something she did not. The thought unsettled her. She stepped back and returned to her throne. Very well, she declared. Let the trial begin. The guards moved to escort the human, but he walked forward on his own. His steps were slow, but steady. The nobles whispered again, calling him reckless, calling him doomed. But the queen did not silence them this time. She only watched him go, her eyes narrowing with hidden thought as the human stepped into the glowing doorway. The light swallowed him. His figure vanished into the unknown. The hall grew quiet again, but in the queen's chest, her heart beat faster. For reasons she did not want to admit, she wanted him to survive. Yet at the same time, she knew, if he did, the galaxy would never be the same. Asterisk. The human stepped into the glowing doorway, and the light swallowed him whole. When his eyes adjusted, he found himself standing in a vast chamber made of glass and stars. The floor beneath his feet seemed endless, like walking on the sky itself. Around him floated broken fragments of worlds, shadows of planets and ruins of forgotten empires. A voice echoed in the air, soft but heavy. It was not the queen's voice, but something older. Truth is a burden. Truth is a blade. Will you carry it? Human. The man did not answer with words. He simply kept walking. His steps were slow, steady, unshaken. Every sound of his foot echoed like thunder across the endless void. The first trial came quickly. From the starry mist emerged figures of humans, men and women with kind faces. They called his name. They stretched their hands toward him. Come home, they said. Stay with us. Forget your wish. Forget your pain. Live in peace. For a moment, he felt the warmth of their voices. They sounded like family, like people he had once lost. His heart ached, but then his new sight. The gift of truth pierced through. Their faces began to twist. Their smiles cracked like broken masks. Behind them, he saw not love, but hunger. They were illusions feeding on his weakness. He shook his head and walked past them. Their voices turned into screams as they faded into mist. His chest hurt, but his steps did not stop. The second trial came with fire. From the darkness rose beasts taller than mountains, their teeth like blades, their claws dripping with shadows. They roared, shaking the stars around him. The ground trembled beneath his feet. Any man would have run, but he did not. He looked into their eyes, and truth showed him what they really were. Not monsters, but fears given shape. They were not real. They were the lies of his own mind. He walked straight toward them, and the beasts roared again. Their bodies cracked. Their shapes melted into smoke. One by one, they vanished, leaving only silence. The third trial was the hardest. The mist parted, and before him stood the queen herself, her golden crown shining, her beauty endless. She walked toward him with soft steps. Her eyes glowed, and her voice was gentle. "Human," she said, "you are brave, but you do not need to suffer. You do not need to face this trial. I will give you my hand. I will make you powerful. I will make you king beside me. You will never want again. Just give up this wish, and all will be yours." For a heartbeat, he felt the weight of her words. She was more beautiful than the stars, more powerful than the heavens. But then his sight of truth burned again. And behind her perfect face, he saw sorrow, chains, and something broken. It was not the queen. It was the trial testing him with the image of temptation. He bowed his head. "You cannot trick me," he said. "Truth is worth more than crowns. Truth is worth more than comfort." The false queen faded like dust, and the chamber grew quiet. The path ahead cleared, and the mist began to dissolve. At last, the human stood in a circle of light. His body was tired, but his spirit was unbroken. The voice of the trial whispered once more, "You have endured. You have chosen truth over lies. Your resolve is strong. Continue, human." The light swallowed him, and suddenly he was back in the great hall. The nobles gasped. The guards stared. No one had ever returned so quickly. The queen sat upon her throne, her golden eyes locked on him. For the first time, her heart raced. He had survived what should have broken him. He had passed the trial of stars, but more than survival. She saw something in him she did not want to see. A strength beyond crowns, beyond armies. A strength that made her uneasy. The human bowed his head once. Not in weakness, but in respect. His voice was calm, steady. "I am ready for my second wish." And the queen, though she did not show it, felt fear stir inside her again. The great hall was still heavy with silence after the human returned. From the trial of stars, nobles stared with wide eyes. Guards shifted nervously. Even the queen, who had seen centuries of war and endless challenges, felt her heart beat faster than she wanted to admit. The human stood tall in the center of the chamber. His plain clothes were torn from the trial, yet his eyes glowed faintly with the power of truth. He bowed his head once in respect, but his voice carried strong and steady. "My queen," he said, "I have passed your test. Now I ask for my second wish." The nobles leaned forward. Whispers filled the chamber. Some said he would ask for power. Others said he would demand ships, wealth, or even her throne. But none of them expected the words that followed. The queen's golden eyes locked on him. "Speak, human," she commanded. He drew a deep breath and spoke. "My second wish is this. I wish for your people to see what I see." The hall exploded in chaos. Nobles cried out in horror. Advisors shouted warnings. Guards tightened their grips on their weapons. The queen raised her hand, but even she could not silence the roar of fear, for what the man had asked was not for himself, but for all of them. The queen rose slowly from her throne. Her golden cloak spread like fire behind her. Her voice cut through the noise. "You dare," she said. "You dare ask that my empire be stripped of its illusions. You dare demand that every eye see the truth that even kings cannot bear." The man did not step back. His voice was calm. "Yes, I dare, because truth belongs to everyone, not only to me, not only to you, but to all who live under your rule. If lies control their lives, then they are slaves. If they see truth, they can be free." The nobles screamed louder. 1. shouted, "This is treason. This is rebellion." Another shouted, "Kill him before he destroys us all." But the queen silenced them with one sharp gesture. Her eyes never left the human. Inside, a storm raged. She had ruled with wisdom and iron. She had hidden things for the sake of peace, for the sake of power, for the sake of her throne. If his wish was granted, every hidden thing in her empire would rise. Every secret would burn under the light of truth. Her enemies would grow stronger. Her people might rise against her. The galaxy could fall into chaos. "Do you know what you are asking?" she said, her voice low. "Dangerous. If I grant this, kingdoms will fall. Wars will start. Families will break. Millions will curse your name. You will not only carry truth yourself, you will unleash it upon all. And once unleashed, it cannot be undone." The man's face was calm, his voice soft but unshaken. "Yes, I know, but lies are poison. They kill slowly. They destroy silently. The people deserve to see what is real, not what is told to them, even if it brings pain. Truth is the only way forward." The queen stared at him. Her golden crown seemed heavier than before. She searched his face for weakness, for fear, but there was none. He stood like stone, unmovable. For the first time in her long reign, the queen felt doubt coil tightly inside her. This human, small and fragile compared to her, spoke with more power than armies. His words challenged everything she believed, everything she had built. The hall grew tense. The nobles waited for her to strike him down. The guards waited for her to give the order, but the queen did not speak right away. She looked into his glowing eyes and saw her own reflection. And behind her reflection, she saw the shadow of her empire trembling. She turned slowly, her cloak whispering across the floor. She raised her hand, and her voice thundered. "So be it." Gasps filled the air. Her advisors shouted in disbelief. But her words could not be taken back. "Your second wish shall be granted," she declared. "The people of this galaxy will see truth. May the stars have mercy on us all." The chamber shook as power filled the air again. A storm of light burst from the throne, sweeping across the hall, racing beyond the palace walls, racing into the skies, racing into every world under her rule. The human closed his eyes as the power spread, and far away, across the galaxy, countless eyes began to open. Countless illusions began to fall. Secrets buried for centuries began to rise, and the queen, though her face was proud and her voice was strong, felt her heart tremble, for she knew the galaxy would never be the same again. Asterisk. The light of the second wish had not faded, and already the galaxy trembled. Across distant worlds, illusions shattered like glass, secrets hidden by rulers, priests, merchants, and generals burst into the open. Families looked at each other with new eyes. Armies saw their commanders as liars, and thrones shook under the weight of truth. In the great hall, the nobles were in chaos. Some shouted in fear, others demanded the human be executed at once. They claimed he had cursed the empire. They claimed he was a weapon sent to destroy them. But the queen silenced them with a single sharp gesture. Her golden eyes were calm on the surface, but inside her chest, unease burned like fire. That night, she walked alone in her private chambers. The stars above glittered, yet they seemed colder. She stood before a mirror of silver, her reflection shining, but for the first time, she wondered if even her beauty was only another mask. She touched her crown, and for a moment, it felt heavy. Heavier than ever before. The whispers of the nobles still echoed in her ears. They had always feared her, but now they feared something else. They feared the truth. The human had given her people a sight that even she had never dared to give, and though she had spoken the words, "So be it," she now questioned if she had done the right thing. Her advisor with silver scales entered quietly, bowing low. "My queen," he hissed, "the empire stirs. Reports arrive from every system. Soldiers question their orders. Citizens march in the streets. The truth spreads like fire. If this continues, the empire will burn. The queen turned sharply, her cloak flashing. Her voice was cold. And what would you have me do? Kill the man, undo the wish. Tell the people to blind themselves again. The advisor lowered his head. If the human is destroyed, perhaps the people will lose faith in his gift. Her eyes narrowed. No, she whispered. The wish has already been granted. Even if he dies, the truth will not die with him. The advisor hesitated, then said softly, Then why do you allow him to live? My queen, what power does he hold over you? The queen did not answer. She turned away. Looking at the stars once more, her heart beat faster. She would not admit it to anyone. But the human's courage had touched her. His eyes, glowing faintly with the light of truth, had seen through her mask. He had seen the sorrow she carried, the secrets she hid even from herself, and that thought filled her with both anger and something else, something she refused to name. Later she called for the human. He entered the chamber calmly, his steps steady, his plain clothes still torn, but his eyes clear. She studied him, and for the first time in centuries, she did not feel like a queen looking at a subject. She felt like a ruler facing someone who could not be ruled. Human, she said quietly, her voice no longer thunder but shadow. Do you know what you have done? You have set fire to my empire. You have opened eyes that were not ready to see. The order I built is breaking. Do you understand the chaos you have unleashed? The man bowed his head slightly. Yes, he said. But it is not destruction. It is birth. Your empire was built on silence. Now it must learn to speak. That is not the end. It is the beginning. Her chest tightened at his words. She wanted to call him a fool. Yet her heart whispered he might be right. She turned from him, not wishing to let him see the doubt in her eyes. When he left the chamber, she stood in silence. Her hands gripped the edge of her throne, her mind heavy with questions she had never dared to ask before. Was she truly a queen of light, or was she a queen of shadows? Had she ruled with wisdom, or had she ruled with lies? For the first time in her reign, the queen doubted not only her empire, but herself. And as the night stretched on, the doubt only grew stronger. The galaxy had not rested since the second wish. From one corner of the empire to the other, truth spread like a storm. Hidden crimes were exposed. Corrupt lords were dragged from their palaces. Soldiers turned their weapons on commanders who had lied to them. Even common families spoke truths they had buried for years. It was freedom, but also chaos. The queen sat on her throne with a heavy crown. Her nobles begged her to undo the human's gift. They shouted that he was a danger, that he must be executed before he asked for more. Yet she said nothing. Her golden eyes stayed cold. But deep inside, she felt torn. The human was brought into the great hall once more. His face calm, his eyes glowing faintly with the light of truth. He bowed slightly, and then he stood tall. The chamber grew tense. The air itself felt heavy. Everyone knew he had only one wish left. The queen leaned forward. Her voice rolled like thunder. Human, she said, you have already shaken my empire with your first two wishes. You carry the power to build or destroy. Now speak. What is your final wish? The man took a deep breath. He closed his eyes for a moment, and then he opened them. His voice was steady. My final wish is not for myself. It is for you, my queen. The hall exploded in shock. Nobles shouted. Advisors gasped. Some laughed bitterly, calling him a fool, but he did not stop. His eyes stayed on the queen. I wish, he said clearly, that you may see the truth of your own heart. The hall froze. The queen's eyes widened. For the first time in centuries. Her mask cracked. She gripped the armrest of her throne. Her breath caught in her chest. "You dare," she whispered, her voice trembling though she tried to keep it strong. "You dare turn the blade of truth upon me." The man did not flinch. "Yes," he said, "you hide behind crowns and power, but even you carry chains. Even you bury secrets. If you are to lead a galaxy where truth cannot be hidden, you must first face the truth within yourself." The nobles roared in outrage. Some demanded his death. Others fell silent, afraid of what might happen next. The queen rose slowly from her throne, her golden cloak flowing like fire. Her voice was sharp. "Do you know what you have asked? If I look into my heart, I may see things that cannot be forgiven. I may see the weakness of my rule. I may see that I am unworthy." The man's voice softened, but it carried across the chamber. "Then see it. Only in seeing can you be free. Only in seeing can you be more than a ruler of shadows." Her chest tightened. Her people were watching. Her advisors trembled. Even the guards dared not move. For a long moment, she stood in silence. Then she raised her hand and declared, "So be it." The power of the throne surged once again. A storm of light wrapped around her. Her crown glowed, her eyes burned. She staggered slightly as the gift pierced her soul. She gasped, her hands clutching her chest. And then she saw every mask she had worn, every lie she had told. She saw the fear that had driven her to rule with iron. She saw the sorrow of her past, the loneliness she had buried under gold and power. She saw herself not as a queen, but as a woman who had once been afraid of losing everything. Her golden eyes shimmered with tears. The hall fell into silence. No one had ever seen the queen show weakness. No one had ever seen her weep. Yet here she stood, the strongest ruler in the galaxy. Trembling under the truth of her own heart, the human watched quietly. He did not smile. He did not mock her. He only bowed his head, for his final wish had been given. And in that moment, the galaxy itself seemed to pause, waiting to see what the queen would do with the truth she could no longer deny. Asterisk. The queen stood in the center of the great hall, her golden crown trembling on her head. The storm of truth still burned in her eyes, and tears marked her face. Her nobles had fallen into silence. They had never seen their ruler weep. They had never seen her break. The human stood calmly before her, his plain form unshaken, his glowing eyes watching not with pride, but with quiet respect. He had not wished for riches. He had not wished for power. He had wished for her to see herself. And now she did. The queen's voice was soft, yet it carried across the chamber. "I see it now," she whispered. "I see the fear that guided me. I see the chains I wrapped around myself. I see the cruelty I called strength." Her words made the nobles shift uncomfortably. Some looked away, as if the sight of their rulers. Honesty was too bright for them. For centuries, she had ruled with iron and shadow. She had hidden her pain. She had told herself that fear was the only way to hold an empire together. But now the truth burned those lies away. The human spoke gently. "Then you are free, my queen. For the first time, you are free." Her chest ached at his words. Free. It was a word she had given to others, but never to herself. She looked at him, this small, fragile human who had shaken her throne. And her heart felt something it had not felt in centuries. Not fear, not anger, but hope. The nobles began to shout. Again, they demanded she strike the human down. They begged her to take back the wishes, to restore the empire to its old order. Their voices echoed like a storm of desperation. The queen raised her hand, and silence fell again. But this silence was different. This time, it carried change. Her voice rang out, strong and clear. "No more lies," she declared. "No more shadows, no more masks. From this day, we rule in truth." Gasps filled the air. Some nobles collapsed to their knees. Others stared in horror, for they knew their secrets were already exposed. They knew their power was slipping away. The human bowed his head. He had not come to destroy, but to awaken. And now he saw that the queen herself had changed. She was no longer only a ruler of fear. She was something new across the galaxy. The effects of the final wish spread on distant worlds. Leaders confessed their crimes. Families forgave old wounds. Soldiers laid down weapons rather than fight in false wars. Not all was peace. There was chaos. There was fire. But in that fire, something brighter was born. The queen stood taller than before. Her crown no longer felt heavy, for now it rested not on lies, but on truth. She looked at the human one last time, and though her lips did not form the words, her eyes spoke them clearly. "Thank you." The hall remained quiet. The galaxy seemed to hold its breath. A new future had begun, not of illusions, not of chains, but of truth. The human turned and walked away from the throne. His task was complete, his wishes spent. Yet his presence would echo through the stars for ages, for he was the man who asked not for riches, not for power, but for truth, and the queen, forever changed, carried that truth into the heart of her empire, guiding it toward a destiny no one had ever imagined. The galaxy did not return to silence after the queen's final words. The fire of truth spread from world to world, slow in some places, violent in others. Entire kingdoms fell. New leaders rose, and people began to speak in ways they never had before. It was not peace, but it was change. The queen no longer sat on her throne in the same way. She still wore her golden crown, but it was lighter now. Her nobles no longer dared to hide their secrets. Many of them had already lost their titles. Stripped bare by the truth they could no longer bury. Some fled, others begged forgiveness. The court that once whispered in shadows now trembled in the light. The human walked through the palace one last time. He was offered riches, honors, even a place beside the queen, but he refused them all. His task was finished. His wishes were spent. He did not seek power. He had asked only for truth. And truth had been given when he met the queen in her private garden. The stars glowing above, she looked at him differently, not as a ruler looks upon a subject, but as one soul looks upon another. Her voice was softer than before. "You have changed my empire. Human, you have changed me. I once believed crowns and fear were enough. Now I see they were only chains. I do not know if I can guide this new galaxy, but I will try." The human bowed his head. "That is all anyone can do," he said. "Try and keep walking in truth." They stood together in silence for a long moment. The queen's golden eyes shimmered with something she had never shown before. Not fear, not anger, but gratitude. She did not say the words aloud, yet he heard them in the quiet between stars. "Thank you." When the day came, the human left the palace. He walked alone, carrying no riches, no crown, only the light of truth within his eyes. The people watched him go. Some feared him, some hated him, but many more bowed their heads in respect. They knew his 3 wishes had changed their lives forever. Across the galaxy, stories of him spread. Some called him a prophet, some called him a fool. Some even called him dangerous, but all agreed on one thing. He was the man who had stood before the galactic queen and asked not for power, not for gold, not for glory, but for truth. Generations would remember him, not as a conqueror, but as a reminder that even the smallest voice could shake the mightiest throne. The queen herself carried his legacy. Her rule was no longer built on shadows, but on honesty. She faced rebellion. She faced storms, but she did not hide them. She let her people see her doubts, her flaws, her heart, and for that, though some cursed her, many more followed her with true loyalty. In time, the galaxy changed. Worlds that once lived in silence began to share openly. Alliances were made not with lies, but with honesty. It was not perfect, it was not peaceful, but it was real, and that was enough. As for the human, he vanished into the stars. Some say he returned to his homeworld. Some say he wandered among forgotten systems, seeking no throne, no kingdom, only truth. But wherever he went, the glow in his eyes remained, a light that no darkness could extinguish. And so the tale ended, not with war, not with riches, but with something greater. A queen who learned to see her heart, a galaxy forced to face itself, and a human who proved that even in the vastness of stars, truth was the most powerful wish of all. Asterisk.